Hi and welcome back to the next tutorial. This tutorial is going to focus on creating a new exhibitor which will actually reference the area spot that we just set up in the last video. So to do this, we're in our test video event 2013 and we've got agenda items, speakers, exhibitors, locations and groupings tabs on this page. We're going to click through onto the exhibitors tab, and in here we're going to create ourselves and add a new exhibitor to this event. You'll be prompted to type in the exhibitor's name. So for here, we want to keep this fairly short and brief because it needs to fit on the mobile screen. Typically less than 30 characters is ideal, but you can have longer, it'll just be truncated. So let's call this AsArt Company. Actually, let's just call it AsArt Limited. So this is what's going to appear on the app. We click Next, and we can now type in information such as the web link that we want to go through to. So let's put asart.com. The logo that we're going to use for this exhibitor. Now it's optional, you don't have to have one, but if you don't have one, you'll find that it won't be aligned with the other exhibitors that do have logos. It's a choice. You may want to be selling logos as additional revenue opportunity to the exhibitors, saying, you know, for an extra $50 you can actually have a logo on your listing. So the first part is the image title, and this is only for our benefit. This is just so that you can see the name of the image in the database. Realistically, we should streamline this to remove it. We're working on that, but for the moment just type in AsArt logo. And now we need to upload the image that we're going to use. So we use this browse and upload button. Ignore the easy upload for the moment because it's just easier to understand what's going on behind the scenes if we do this. So browse and upload, and we now want to upload the image. Now you can upload it directly to your folder here, but personally I like creating a new folder and call this logos. This is just because it'll simplify life later if you're doing other events, and you can actually reference back to previous logos. So once we've created the folder, you need to click in the folder to open it, and you'll see the image ever so slightly changes to an open folder from a closed one. From here we can now click on upload, and we can select files, and we can go and pick ourselves a nice logo. So let's go ahead and pick a logo. For the moment I'm just going to click a button image, so perhaps that's their logo. And there we go, we now have buttonmaps.png as their image. We have to select it to fill in the details. You'll see a small preview of the image, and don't worry about any of these options. This is if you actually want to reformat the image, but realistically don't do that. Try to do all your image modifications before uploading it. A guidance for these images, they should be no bigger than 256 by 256 pixels, and the file size should be smaller than 60 kilobytes. If you have a lot of very, how I'd say, non-shaded colors, so it's very flat, you know, black, white, red, pure colors which aren't graduated, or it doesn't, and it is a case of it needs to have alpha, you should save the files as PNGs. PNGs do allow you to have alpha, but they are generally larger file sizes. If you can, try to save them as JPEGs. And when saving them as JPEGs, especially in Photoshop, you have to be very careful that it hasn't included what's called metadata on the way the image was created, because a file that could typically be like 10 to 20 kilobytes can actually easily be 2-3 megabytes with all the unnecessary data in there. If you find that is the case, all you need to do is save the image as something like a PNG or a bitmap in Photoshop, reopen it, and then save it again as a JPEG, and that will remove all the unnecessary metadata in there. So I know this button maps file is perfectly fine. I've checked it on my hard drive to make sure that it's smaller than 64 kilobytes, and I can now press insert image, and after that it'll fill in the path. Don't worry about creating a thumbnail, and we can now specify what type of exhibitor is this. Are they an exhibitor, are they a sponsor, or are they both? So in this case, we actually can have both. If you have them listed as a sponsor, it means that you can call them out as a separate sponsors list rather than just showing them as a sponsor inside the exhibitors list only. The contact name, this is the name that you want to appear in the app. Generally, you'd have a contact name, email, and telephone number and address. You don't have to have any of these fields, but I would suggest that it's best to have at least the web link and ideally an email so that people could actually get in touch with the exhibitor. So let's put in my name, and we'll put in my email address and the telephone number, such as that, and our address could be London. Press save, and once we have that, you now have your exhibitor added in. Now, to do the next stage, you actually want to associate that exhibitor to a spot itself. There are some buttons here. If we clicked on this button on the far right, this allows us to edit the information of the exhibitor that we've just entered. But if we actually click on the exhibitor's name, it gives us some linking properties. So we'll click through on the exhibitor, and you can see here we can actually say add an existing floor plan spot to this exhibitor. So I'll click that, and here are a list of all of the exhibitions stands that we added in the earlier video. So here we could assign as art to exhibitor 1, and it just adds it to the list. No need to press save, it's already done. And if you click details, you can actually add in some information about the company. So this company makes mobile and database applications. Click press save, and that should be it. You now have that exhibitor is available for the app. It won't be published to the app until you actually tell ASART that you want it to be published, and we press the publish button, or we open up the capability for you to press the publish button, which would appear as a tab just here. That concludes this tutorial on adding exhibitors, and we'll focus on the next tutorial about adding speakers and agenda items next. Thanks.